The music.
Did I do a good job?
Yep.
Okay.
You did a good job.
I did.
That's plenty. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ace on Music. I'm joined, as always, by my faithful producer, Mark, and my good friend and assistant, Sean.
Hello, everyone.
So, this week, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about a gentleman who was a giant in the music industry and also somebody I considered a dear friend. Lee Kerslake passed away on September 18th after an extended battle with colon cancer, and we were really, really saddened to see him go. Now, for those of you who don't really know a lot about Lee's career, I mean, he was involved in two of the most important of the hard rock metal bands in history, and the first one was Uriah Heep. Joining Uriah Heep in 1971, he went on to record some of their most seminal albums like Demons and Wizards and Magician's Birthday and things like that. He ended up leaving Heep in 79, 80, and he went and formed a new band with at that point, ex-Black Sabbath lead singer Ozzy Osbourne and Randy Rhoads and Bob Daisley, and they created what was going to be called Blizzard of Oz. Ended up becoming Ozzy's solo band, but they did two of the great records, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, both of which Lee was involved heavily in the writing on. Now, as our faithful listeners know, I'm a manager of a number of bands, one of them being Uriah Heep. So I first met Lee in, I believe it was 2002 or 2003. I was managing Asia at the time, and we were made a deal to record a DVD, and we were going to Trenton, New Jersey, to the Patriot Theater to film it. And the night before, the same company was doing a filming of a Uriah Heep show, and so we were kind of hanging out with the Heep guys, and that was the first time I got to meet Lee. And now back in 2014, he got diagnosed with the colon cancer, and they'd given him about 6 months to live. But he fought on through, and the first time that you got to meet him, Sean, was in December 2018.
Yeah, Shepherd's Bush.
That's right. We got contacted by a documentarian who was doing a film about Lee's life, and she had said that, was there any way that Lee could come and join the band for one last time on stage? And we said, absolutely. So we brought Lee down and gave him the royal treatment, and he joined the band on stage, and it was a pretty amazing night.
Well, let me set the moment, because it was a big deal to me, because it was the second time I've been to Shepherd's Bush. I believe the first time was with Black Star Riders.
Correct.
And I don't know, if anyone that's listening has been to Shepherd's Bush, but there's a major history behind that. And then when you go backstage, there's posters and bunch of history, David Bowie, I mean, you name the big bands, they've gone through Shepherd's Bush. So when I first met Lee during 2018, when we were at Shepherd's Bush, he came in and he was in this wheelchair and he wasn't doing too well, but he was so excited.
Oh man.
Like he was like, he wanted to go up there and play so bad, and he was really excited on being there, and he was so happy, and it was just like, and I helped him go around the back stage area, because I've been there before, so I knew the little ins and outs, but it was just he was just a really humble guy, and
yeah, but he was such a big personality. I mean, everything he did in a big way. First of all, they called him the Bear because he was a big man to begin with. I remember, not long after we did the Trenton, New Jersey thing, Asia went over we got along so well with the Heep guys that we organized a UK tour where it was Asia and Uriah Heep. And I remember we did I think it was a ferry crossing or something over to France. And if you go on these ferries that take you from England to France, you get out of your car, you go upstairs, and there's like restaurants and all this stuff. And I remember they're like cafeteria style restaurants. I remember Lee going up, everybody else was getting some food, and like, you know, everybody's having, you know, bacon and eggs or whatever. And there was Lee's plate, and it was a mountain of food. I remember Adam looking at him and going, "Oh my God."
Sound like something I would do.
But
yeah, that night was amazing, Ace. I mean, honestly, I remember sitting behind him and he was in his wheelchair, and he was so pumped up. He wanted to get up on stage, and he had his little tambourine in his hand, and he was very excited. And when he got up there, literally, like, he was ready to burst in tears. You know, it meant a lot to him.
As amazing a drummer as he was, the one thing I don't think he gets anywhere near the credit for is the power of his voice. I mean, especially in Uriah Heep, his harmonies were paramount to that sound that Uriah Heep was doing, especially back in the 70s. And Mick Box had told me many times that, you know, you could count on Lee because he'd never drop a note. Never. That guy just had a voice from heaven. So, and, you know, I guess as a testament to how great a drummer he is, where his vocals don't ever really get recognized. But
well, his drumming back then too, because I mean, honestly, growing up, you know, in the 70s and 80s, when the first the first Ozzy album came out with him on it, it was kind of misleading. Like, you know, I really thought Tommy Aldridge was playing drums for them, but because I heard Diary of a Madman, and when you open up the album cover, it was Tommy Aldridge on there, and there was no, you know, you had to read the credits of that he was on there, but it was, you know, he I don't know.
Well, Mark, you're not so familiar with Ozzy and his stuff, but I tell you, if you had met Lee, you'd instantly be lifelong friends. Let me tell you this. You know, we were at that Shepherd's Bush Empire show, and he was holding court backstage. You know, he had his glass of wine, and everybody was coming to see him, and he was so sitting there in his Hawaiian shirt. You know, this big guy with his big Hawaiian shirt on. Were you at all tuned in to Ozzy back in the early '80s when that stuff was coming out?
I was. Now, you know, the disclaimer here is that wasn't my fandom. I wasn't connected to it. But hey, I was in high school at this point in time. I mean, this was my thing. And so while I was out there listening to the Springsteens and the Bon Jovis and the, you know, and that kind of thing, you know, half of my high school was listening to the Ozzies and all that. So yeah, it couldn't be avoided.
Well, I tell you, it was a result of that Shepherd's Bush Empire night. You know, Lee and I had a very long conversation during the day, and Lee felt so removed from the world after the cancer hit him as far as the music world. He loved touring. He loved doing all that he started phoning me on a fairly regular basis just to shoot the shit. You know, he wanted to hear about what was happening with Uriah Heep. He wanted to talk music. Of course, being in a semi-medicated state most of the time, he would forget that it's 3 o'clock in the morning in LA when he's phoning at 11 a.m. in London. But I mean, I felt so privileged that he would count me as a friend. And it was not long after the Shepherd's Bush Empire. In fact, it was the next month that he and Uriah Heep were being inducted into the Heavy Metal Hall of History, or Hall of Fame, or whatever that one is accurate name is. And you and I, we went and helped him out for the couple of days he was here. And
yeah, it was at the NAMM show. It was the Heavy Metal Hall of Heavy Metal, I think it was called.
It's whatever it is.
Yeah, and he was super excited on being there, and I believe that's when that Ozzy gave in and gave him the
that's right. Now,
platinum albums, because that was a big deal, right? He was really upset that he never got those.
See, now, Mark, you probably don't know this, but Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake, they both were instrumental in writing a lot of the music for those first two Ozzy albums. And they never really got the credit, and as it turned out later on, they asserted that they weren't getting the financial credit either for that. So in '98, the two of them launched a major lawsuit against Ozzy and Sharon to try and get their royalties. to show you a level of vindictiveness that can happen here, Sharon was so pissed at them for doing that she actually got Robert Trujillo and whoever the drummer was in Ozzy's band at that time to re-record the bass and drums for those two albums and re-release them to make sure that they would never get another penny of royalty again.
That was Faith No More's drummer, Mike.
Mike Borden?
Mark Borden, yeah.
Right, okay. So...
And he hated it from what I heard.
Yeah, they didn't want to do it. And
or not that he hated it, it made him feel very uncomfortable, like recording all that stuff.
Unfortunately, for Lee and Bob, in 2003, the lawsuit was dismissed, and they basically didn't get anything. But when Lee was doing the rounds of press on this documentary that they were doing about him a couple of years ago, he would do a lot of interviews, and one of the things he asked is, he said, I've put that behind me and all that, but I really would love to get the Platinum Album Awards from those two records because I think I deserve them. And Ozzy, he actually showed me the letter that Ozzy sent him, but Ozzy ended up sending him a very heartfelt letter saying, sorry, we didn't, things didn't go the way that they should have. We're replacing, we've replaced you and Bob back on the records and all that stuff. And they actually got him his Platinum Awards. He was so happy.
Did you see the picture that he took with that?
I did.
It looked like he was bursting in tears. He was just so happy.
He so talked about it a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But, I mean, his time with Uriah Heep, it was... Mick Box used to joke with me that Ozzy's snatched a lot of players from him over the years. Bob Daisley, Lee Kerslake, and there's a few others. So, but I was very when he left Uriah Heep went on and they got somebody else who I know quite well as a drummer, and that was Chris Slade, who now plays for AC/DC. At least we think he still plays for AC/DC because they haven't really made an announcement in that camp as to what the heck is going on.
Well, I actually heard that they're going to bring back Brian and
Phil.
And Phil.
I figure they are, but I even read an interview with Chris just a few weeks ago, and he said that he has no idea. Nobody said anything to him, which, whatever. But he did come back after they did one album with Chris. It was called Conquest, and I know my business partner feels that's the best Uriah Heep album. But I'm a little more enamored with the one that came after, and it was the album that also heralded the return of Lee Kerslake, and it was quite a major success, especially in America. It was called Abominog. Now, I know we're both big fans of that record.
Yes. I remember when he returned, and it was a big deal for me. It was like a big deal.
Big deal. Yeah. and really a resurrection of the Uriah Heep song. And he stayed there until he physically couldn't play anymore.
Yeah.
So, but interesting that this also corresponds with the 40th anniversary of the release of Blizzard of Oz.
Well, it was really weird because the Blizzard of Oz 40th anniversary came out on the Friday, last Friday, and he passed away on Saturday. And it was, I was listening to that album during the time that he passed away, and it wasn't, it was just something that I was doing. It wasn't like I was thinking about that, and it was, I don't know how to describe it. It's just very bizarre,
Well, it was interesting. With the 40th anniversary of Blizzard, there's been a lot of press coming out about it and a lot of conversations. And, of course, whenever they do one of these box sets, they always dig up all kinds of background or additional bonus material or whatever. And there was some facts that I learned that I thought were fascinating. And the first one was that originally when they were forming this band, Ozzy wanted Gary Moore, formerly of Thin Lizzy and things like that, to play guitar, but Gary didn't want to do it because Ozzy had a pretty bad reputation at that time. So.
Could you imagine what that sound would have been like if Gary was playing though, like instead of Randy?
My. It would have been very different, but it would have been equally as good.
Well, yeah, it would be like instead of David Gilmour, Jeff Beck playing with Floyd. Now,
yeah,
that was
no, I wouldn't like that.
Well, I mean, the same thing, right? Like almost same.
But he did help them. He did help him do auditions, and apparently, he was staying at a hotel in Hollywood, And Mark, you'll get a kick out of this. He got called down to do an audition, and he said he walked in and Ozzy was just like almost comatose in the thing with empties around him and things like that. And he plugged in and he started to play, and through his drug and alcohol-addled haze, Ozzy beheld the wonder that is Randy Rhoads and said, "You're hired." And he didn't remember the audition, but he knew he was blown away by it. So. But I thought that was a cute story. The other thing that I learned, which blew me away, was a gentleman that both, I think all three of us are admirers of, Deep Purple's Don Airey, who I've known for a while. He actually is the one who recorded that keyboard intro to Mr. Crowley. I didn't know that.
Well, it's funny you told me that, and we were on the Europe tour. And
Europe opening for Deep Purple in
Deep Purple,
the UK.
Right. It was at the Manchester Arena.
The famous arena. That's the arena where the Ariana Grande bomb went off that killed all those people. So that was the first time I'd ever been back. Well, I'd been in that arena before the explosion, but it was the first time I'd been there since the explosion. So it was a little creepy.
Yeah, it was. It was weird for me because it was my first time being there, and you were having a meeting with Europe. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to step out and walk around and check out the arena. And I saw Don Airey in the hallway. I guess there's like a lot of paintings and a lot of pictures of past bands that has been through there. And he had his hands crossed. And I'm like, oh, that's Don Airey, And then I'm like, oh, I should say hi to him. And I'm like, no, I'll just let him look, And I was like admiring all the pictures. Well, that's cool. Rolling Stones and just a lot of history.
Well, actually, my first encounter with Don is actually in a venue that will make you smile. First time I met Don, I was playing with Thin Lizzy in the Cambridge Corn Exchange. Now, I know you got to go to that for the first time last year.
Yeah, there's a lot of history behind that place.
Yeah, for just to explain to you, Mark, the Corn Exchange is in the heart of Cambridge, which of course is such a dedicated university town in England. But it's also literally across the back alley from a bar that the Pink Floyd guys, when they were going to university, all used to hang out. And that whole scene was going on there. And so it's got a vibe. That whole area has just got this incredible vibe. Anyway, the Corn Exchange used to literally be a corn exchange where farmers would bring their corn and sell it and everything. It's now been converted into this incredible venue. And so, as usual, it was getting close to showtime, and my business partner, Adam, came up to me. He said, look, I pulled 2 tickets for us in the balcony so we can go watch the show. And I said, okay, well, we headed up there. And I go up to my seat, and we have the 2 end seats in the front row. And who's in the third seat? Don Airey. And I went, so I'm going to watch Thin Lizzy sitting beside Don. And he was such a lovely gentleman. And seeing him, he comes to every show that we stage there in Cambridge. He lives there. But what a lovely guy. But, I thought that was an incredible piece of history that he did the intro to Mr. Crowley. Did you actually pick up the 40th anniversary collection?
I haven't yet. I don't know. I don't think it's released yet. I think it's available on streaming, but they're doing a red vinyl release. I think it's coming up soon, but I don't think it's out yet.
One thing that I kept thinking about is, if you remember when we were at Shepherd's Bush, Lee kept telling us that he was recording a solo record. Remember? I think it was called 11 or It Goes to 11 or something.
That's right. That's right.
And we met the fellow who was writing all the songs with him there.
Yeah,
and
whatever happened to that?
That's what I was wondering. I wondered now, since he's passed, what's going to happen with that material. Will it ever see the light of day or anything like that? But
you know what's interesting, talking about these stories, my brain's going all over the place, like things that happened when we were hanging out with him. And I remember, so when he was at the NAMM show and he was going to do an interview, or he did an interview with Eddie Trunk.
Right.
Remember that?
I do.
And then I just remember he was so excited about telling a story. And then when he came out of that interview, he goes, oh shit, damn it, I didn't mention this, and he was on this and that, and you, oh, I didn't tell the story about Randy Rhoads when he was telling me this, and he looked at me, he goes, do you know that Randy would still be alive today if I was on that tour, because I was a certified pilot, and I would have never allowed him to get on that plane. He was very,
Really?
yeah, he was very adamant about that. Like, he would have not let that happen. He goes, Randy Rhoads would be alive today if I was on that tour. He told,
Wow.
you know. It was a big moment for me, like for him to vent like that out of an interview. You know, he was so excited. He had so many stories, but you know how it is. You get thrown a certain amount of time to tell these stories, and you know, obviously we got so much things to tell. We're all over the place. I'm sure he's totally like that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I hope that. I hope that he rests in peace, because he was a great guy, and I'm sorry we lost him.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that in the last several months of his life, he was in a great deal of pain. So part of me is kind of happy that
Yeah,
is.
for sure.
Okay, so to another thing I wanted to talk about was just all three of us. Do you want to talk a little bit about what have you listened to that's new this week? What's exciting you right now in music that you've been listening to this week?
Mark, you want to go ahead?
Mark's been working really hard this week, so he probably hasn't been listening
He's like,
to
you
a
know
lot.
what? I've been listening to myself.
That's right. That's right. I spent a lot of time throwing music on up here. You know, we get to spend a lot of time in here by ourselves, so it's not all people and things like that. So we've been cranking on Willie Nile. If you know Willie Nile,
I don't.
essentially there are a collection of artists that have a great Dylan influence, and Willie is one of them. Farron is another, and they're poets. They write incredible lyrics, and they present them in a very Dylan-esque sort of structure and way. And we've been, you know, I can really get down. I really kind of dig it and let them rock out. I've always liked the independent rock, the independent songwriters, and this is for me, because I'm here in this room all the time, has been a great week for cranking on those indies.
It must be great. This week I've been tinkering around with revisiting some stuff from ages past. It's about to be it is, I'm not exactly sure what day it happened, the 30th anniversary of one of the most seminal albums of one of my favorite bands, Megadeth. Their Rust in Peace album is like turned 30.
Is it 30 already?
It feels so old.
Oh my God.
But that album really, for me, was the one that that really dragged me into the Megadeth world. I mean, when Nick Menza joined and
Well, how
Marty
could it
Friedman,
not drag you in, right?
Oh yeah,
Like going from those first three albums, and then to that one, it's just like, all right, we're reeling you in this time.
Do you know where Mustaine got the name for the record?
No.
I saw it in an interview recently. He said that he was driving somewhere in L.A. and there was some car in front of him at a traffic stoplight that had tons of bumper stickers all over it. And one of them was that one that came out saying, "May all your warheads rust in peace."
I think I remember that now.
And then he went, "Rust in peace." That's a great title. Off you go. So, but anyway, so I want to thank both Mark and Sean for the show this week, and thank all of you for your continued support and feedback. You can always send us emails at acetalksmusic@gmail.com. We also would love to have your support through our Patreon.com account. It's patreon.com/aceonmusic. The cool part about the Patreon platform is you get the Ace on Music After Hours program, which is what we talk about after the cameras stop rolling. So if you join us over there, you'll see what continues going on after we say goodnight here. But in the meantime, we'll see you next time around.